Today, we are talking about locusts versus grasshoppers, war, freaking out in public, being a hero, and how now is a critical time to be excellent to each other. I want to start a podcast. No, you don't. It's so hard. Oh, look at this. To be fair, though, I just am trying to move into a new studio and a house and redo everything. So all this is all messed up because I still haven't figured out how I exactly want it to be. And once I figure that out, I'm going to build a desk. So right now I just have everything on this metal rack because it works. I can at least make stuff right now. Music and this wise, but it's all a mess. Because being an adult and like working a 9-to-5 job and then doing like things outside of that is really hard because like, man, like a 9-to-5 job that's like takes up so much time. And I remember growing up thinking like, why are people still artistic when they become an adult? And I guess it's because somehow I skated through my 20s doing like weird stuff like being a magician. And I just had more free time than like the average Joe. And now I'm working a 9-to-5 job, and there's things about it that I absolutely like, but it's been like hitting a brick wall at 100 miles an hour. Like a lot of lifestyle changes have had to happen. But anyway, today we are talking about locusts versus grasshoppers, war, freaking out in public, being a hero, and how now is a critical time to be excellent to each other. And I'll be playing my own background music. Including a bunch of mistakes. Anyway, so like I wanted to start off with this really cool thing, like ask you a question, like what is the difference between a locust and a grasshopper? And I think it's something that's really, really fascinating. I think there's a lot of cool information about, locusts, because you know about a locust, but you don't know probably how they differ from a grasshopper. And just pause this here and think about it. What is the difference between a locust and a grasshopper? Are they two separate things? Well, that's a weird question to answer. They are actually the same thing. So a grasshopper becomes a locust when, hey, check this out. We've got two cameras. I totally forgot about that. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. So locusts are grasshoppers when when too many of them are in the same place at the same time. And what happens, they have these little feet, or little hairs on their legs, I should say. They have these hairs on their legs. And when they get stimulated within a specific amount of time, what happens is it triggers a process within a grasshopper. They change color and appearance, and they eat a lot more, and then they start reproducing a lot more, and they turn into a swarm of locusts. So locusts are actually the same thing as grasshoppers, which I think is really cool because like you see a grasshopper and you don't think like, well, that's not the plague, but it is. Like it just, when they trigger, it's a bad situation. So I thought that was a really, really fascinating situation because it brings me to like freaking out in public. Like, have you locusts and grasshoppers, and now to freaking out in public. You've watched a video online of somebody freaking out in public, and it's just like, for a moment, you have sympathy for that person because it took a lot to get that person to that moment in their life where they're literally freaking out in public. There's a lot of pressure that's backed up, and it maybe it's just something small like not putting ketchup in the bag or something like that. But it was this one thing where this person has not had, and I'm not saying it's okay to freak out in public, but you have to realize or you have to think, at least I do, like what caused that? Why did this person freak out in public? And really what it boils down to is that you can only push a person so far, and then it may just be the ketchup wasn't put in the bag and that person just can't take anymore. And so they freak out, like they hit a limit. And I thought to myself, what would be crazy? Like imagine like how uncomfortable it is to witness someone freaking out in public. And then think about what happens if a whole entire nation did that all at once. And I thought, wow, that's kind of like what's happening right now I mean, it's not that we're all freaking out, but that we're pushing people into very uncomfortable situations, right? We're not used to this, and how critical of a time this is to be excellent to each other, because like locusts, humans can enter like a state of psychosis in a group, and it becomes a very bad thing. And I started thinking like, wow, like that's a, if there's things that trigger us, like when grasshoppers are too close to each other, when they've saturated an area, they have this built-in mechanism that lets them know, hey, we're too close to each other. And I think like on a survival way, that intelligence, whatever created it's brilliant. They get together and they swarm like fish in a group. And their survival instincts are telling them, well, we can't stay here much longer, so let's see how far we can get if we go together as fast as we can. But they do a lot of damage to pretty much everything else whenever they do that. And there's a lot of similarities between us and a swarm of locusts. And I thought that, oh, wow, that's a really interesting situation. But how, we would be like a swarm of locusts, but with guns. And that's a lot worse. If you had a bunch of these people who are being pressured and put into situations, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse, it could turn into to be a very bad thing. So that brought me to the war thing. And I started thinking, I've been reading some other books, one of them being Sun Tzu's Art of War. Because I'll be doing a podcast with my good buddy Chris as we continue to do this, and we continue to talk about things, which brings me to being a hero and what it takes, which we'll get to after I finish the war thing. So I was reading Sun Tzu's Art of War, and one of the concepts in there is like, don't fight an enemy if you don't have to. And so this is an idea I've been kicking around, and I've mentioned before. It's like, it's an interesting thing to think that maybe right now we are in like the midst of a new type of warfare, where instead of fighting people with bullets and massive missiles, which we still do to a small extent, considering like if you were to think that this was like warfare, it would be a lot easier if you could actually trick your enemy to working on your side without them knowing that, or getting them to your side. Like that would be a more effective way of winning. Like you wouldn't send soldiers into war unless absolutely necessary, because you just don't do that in warfare. You don't fight an enemy unless you absolutely have to, and then you know that you can beat them. So it'd just be a significantly more advanced style of warfare to fight with ideas, right? So now you're just stuck in your house with just your ideas. And what, like a good friend of mine, Megan, who told me this awesome phrase. I don't know where she heard it, if it was her idea. I have no idea. So if someone's like, hey, that's so-and-so, say something in the comments or whatever. I don't know what people do. You have more information than you do experience. And I was like, holy moly, like that's an amazing concept to think. Like you're now sitting in your home being fed information, and you don't have the experience. Like you don't know what's going on. Like there could be like literally, there's so many good conspiracy theories about what's happening out there. And now we don't know, and that's an interesting place to be. So that comes down to, why I'm doing this, because I wanted to really genuinely I'm doing this for the people who are close to me, who I feel like I've, in a guilty way, feel like I've betrayed, because I just really wanted to disappear after doing the whole magic thing. Yeah, and pun intended, very much so in that. I was just tired of being in the public eye, and always, I know like the social media thing, you got to post stuff and you got to stay current, and it's an exhausting amount of work. And I don't know. I really genuinely don't know how like other people do it. And I don't know if people think that I did it, because I feel like I did a horrible job at all of it. And I just wasn't really happy. And I definitely think I'm happier now doing a job, but I don't want to be like artificially interacting with people that aren't really genuinely a part of your life. And then here I am saying this as I'm speaking into like artificial eyes and ears. And I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to play the game. I don't want to like comment with people. And I just want to be real with people, but it's very, very hard when you're trying to present an idea and then like how well that idea is being presented. Oh, I'm rambling. Oh God, I'm rambling. Anyway, well, it boiled down to being a hero. And as I've spent like the last year, like I've been retooling, like it doesn't look like it. It may not really genuinely look like it, but there's a lot of work that's happened here. A lot of programming devices and reading manuals. And I'm starting like the second album and stuff, but realizing that like I desire to play music to bring people together, and like nobody, like I don't do shows, like I don't bring people together. Like I don't really do anything. And I think music came from a place of literally people coming together. Like that's where we started doing music. Music only came from tribes that had nothing else to do. They weren't starving. They weren't out hunting. They were well fed. They were clothed, and they had spare time, and it was a full moon, and we could bang on stuff and dance around together, and we could send a message that everything's okay here. And that's kind of what I want to try and do with, that is what I'm going to do moving forward. I don't have the answers. And I don't want to be like one of those people claiming to, but I want to start like giving people like a reason to, even if it's just like the people I know, to come together and talk and spread like good ideas. I don't really want to be the face of like some massive podcast or anything like that, but I feel like I have disappeared from a lot of my friends. So I wanted to come back and say, sorry, I tried to go away. My phone is actually still like off, only if like essential people can ring my phone, and that's like Jennifer and my dad. And then like everything else just goes straight to voicemail. So like you're still probably going to have a hard time getting hold of me. Anyway, which I'm going to keep this short, as I was supposed to be playing guitar but didn't. Yeah, that's a anyway. So yeah, the main idea that what I wanted to do was like, okay, so like I got to do the whole like you got to be the hero thing, but that means that like I got to do the hero thing, and I got to do the thing like I don't want to do it, like I don't want to do the podcast, like I don't want to be doing this extra work, like it's Sunday, man. Like I just want to be playing guitar. Like I'm gonna have to bust all this stuff down, and then I had already set it all up. I got a haircut. I had to cut my hair. Like come on. Like I just want to sit down and like drink a cup of tea and play some guitar. But I'm gonna edit this all down. I'm gonna put it out, and I don't know. I guess like few people I know are gonna watch it, and I think that it's really, really important in this critical time. The hoarding of objects, I think, is a really good indicator that we don't trust each other and we don't know our neighbors. So maybe the thing that's happening right now is that we're in a way being told to sit down and get to know each other. So, I'll go first kind of thing. And I'll tell you more information about me than you should probably ever know. But yeah, basically, I think we're at a critical time when, situations like this have caused people to do things that, don't look too good to, in hindsight. But I think that we could genuinely be the opposite of a world war. And that's an idea I think that's worth spreading. If we can do horrible, horrible things to each other, we can also learn to not do that. And I think we're at a point that, that's becoming obvious that we can't keep doing what we were doing in the past. It's not going to work out very well, not in the long run. Things have to change. What happens in China will affect us. What happens here will affect other people. Like what we do has a bigger consequence outside of where you see. Like I will probably never set foot in China ever, but I should be aware that my actions may have consequences elsewhere, and this is to show, I think, the world that we are interconnected. This is a whole living thing. Like, if you get an infection in your foot, it spreads everywhere. And I'm not saying this isn't a slight like towards any country. This is a world thing. This is us as a world unit coming together. And not like in an Illuminati world government, but like, I don't even know how like that is a bad idea. I'd love to hear like why that would be a bad idea, because I think we should all be on the same page. Like we're all on the same planet. I don't see why we shouldn't, be in communication about how things over here can affect things over there, you know? I think as we move forward, we'll hopefully, no, as we move forward, we have the power to make a difference. And it starts right at home. And that's where we're starting. And then when we get the chance to interact with other people, we should do our best to do that, so that unlike grasshoppers, we don't rub people the wrong way and turn each other into locusts. Because if we had a public freakout as massive as, you know, a nation, it could turn into a very bad situation. But if we had a nation of people being excellent with each other, we can be the opposite of a world war. And I think that's a really powerful idea. So that's why I'm making this, is because no matter how small, because I feel like this is a small thing, like all the work I've done, like it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, it goes places, but like, and I appreciate like literally everybody who's ever like listened to a song and all the feedback, like it really means a lot. And honestly, it feels good just to kind of do this because I think I'm supposed to. And I try hiding from it. Maybe like, oh, you'll find another way of like figuring things out. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just supposed to make podcasts in my makeshift studio as I change it. And it's never supposed to be this idea that I just deliver to people. Like, oh, look at this fool idea. It's awesome and ready. It's just the whole thing's perfect. Check it out. Because that's not how those ideas just show up. And maybe the big part is to show people like the behind the scenes of moving and how difficult it is and how like unorganized all this stuff is as I'm redoing everything, and how this frustrates the ever living daylights out of me, and how like I haven't really written a good song in like over a year because I moved and I got a new job, and I'm not, you know, like I moved twice actually in 1 year. And like maybe sharing that process is the thing I'm supposed to do to show other people like whatever it is that you want to do, it takes a lot of work, man, but like don't stop, keep doing that, because the other option, which is the last thing of us being a hero, is like you don't really have a choice. A hero does what they do because they know they're supposed to. And once you kind of know that, you can't not. Like if someone is about to get hit by a car and you can save their life, you would. If you have the opportunity to do a good thing, you should do that. Like, why not? So it doesn't have to be a podcast. It doesn't have to be like anything crazy. It could literally be just as nice, as simple as just being nice with someone. If you have to go out and you have to interact, there's a lot of stress put on a lot of people in a lot of different places. Know that people are being challenged deeply in a very real way. And we can do something amazing. And I'll say it again because it's such a heavy concept. To me, it's like, I mean, you just think about how many people died and all the lives that, you know, were like affected from a world war. And think about, it's literally like it took all those people interacting with the war the way they did to make it happen. We can literally do the opposite of that, and we could be the opposite of a world war. That's a huge idea. And I think it's very possible. So do that.